what you want to do.
Actually, I thought of a question, kind of something that I suppose you two would be helpful to talk, could speak to this. Sort of as, right, the kind of the work part is the grading, and when you're doing a lot of sort of substantive grading, right, you're grading like papers and stuff, right, sort of managing the time to use it most effectively so that you're not staring at that paper for 30 minutes and being like, have you all found successful ways to sort of manage the grading time for efficiency? I guess some of it being like maybe work for 30 minutes, then save an animal, work for 30 minutes.
The other one that
Yeah.
because I mean, saving animals can get a little addictive, so sometimes it goes to 6 minutes.
Okay.
But sometimes what I'll do, and I deliberately do this, like every 5 or 6 exams, every 5 or 6 papers, so it obviously varies with the length. Get up and go to the bathroom whether or not you need to. And I know that sounds really stupid, but first of all, you're actually getting up, so you're not
Moving
stiff.
around.
And ours is the bath. I work at school the 7 days a week because home is too quiet.
Yeah.
And then, so I come in, and even just going to the other side of HSS, you get up, you walk 30 feet, you wash your hands, you come back 30 feet, maybe. I don't even know if it's that far. But it's getting up and going in there, then you just sit there. And the other thing I think to help with the exam grading is put them in stacks of 5. You know, actually physically count 5, and then turn the next 5, turn the next 5. So, oh, it's a good time to go to the bathroom. You know, like I said, whether or not you need to, or maybe just walk, like our floor is circular.
Okay.
You know, you can just walk that, you don't have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just get up.
Yeah.
Like a little mini success when you get the 5 of them, great.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
I deserve this walk.
Absolutely.
And then you can have your little stack of, look at how I got.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
But
And
it's just, you don't go crazy that way.
Yeah.
And I'm getting into the habit of putting rubrics. Sometimes I was just at a workshop not too long ago, and the funniest question, what was that what you were asking me, Malcolm? Is it really about the writing?
Yeah, right, because you
we
were talking
get
about this,
distracted.
this 5-paragraph essay thing, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why use that? Why is that so important to
Yeah.
do it in that
Yeah.
way?
What is it that you really want to get out of the papers? Is there a thesis? Are they making an argument? Don't
Yeah.
get dragged down by grammar.
Oh, I don't get tracked down by grammar, but yes.
Oh, I mark every grammar mistake, every.
But, you know, make yourself an outline. It doesn't necessarily have to be such a detailed grading rubric, but some major highlights. You know, does this student hit this? Does this student hit this? What is the learning outcome that you really want that student to have?
Football works for me just fine. Football, baseball. I usually have my kitchen table. There's my husband watching whatever sport that there is on TV, and I'm just grading. And I found it like 3-4 papers or tests, whichever, right? You know, I allow myself to put it aside and actually look at the screen for 5 minutes. Or, you know, I break, you know, from the grading routine for like a good game or, you know, something like that. So it's important because if you see that daunting task in that stack, I mean, you demoralized right away.
Yeah.
So you have to some kind of break it up and break it down.
It is slower, all right? It is slower to get up and walk to the bathroom. It is slower to rescue an animal.
Or a cup of tea.
Yeah, or the cup of tea.
Yeah.
It does take less time. My experience when I taught for the University of Maryland overseas, we would have to give a final exam that classes were from 6 to 9 at night, or sometimes to 10, depending on the base. And we had to grade the final exams and turn the grades in to someone who was on the base somewhere, and you had to find the somewhere and be at the airport by 2 o'clock in the morning. And that meant turning in the final grades and all that, and that's before the computers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there is knowing how to do it and not going to the bathroom, but now that I'm in a normal teaching position, you have that time to get up and walk, you know, do a circle, whatever. But otherwise, you have to take the situation, it's there. And I think, can I take it to a different one, different question? One of the questions that I found most concerning on this list is this one, because your department is phenomenal, all right? The one in here that I found, I don't know which question number it is. But anyway, it says, is there a gentle way to ask our employer to also provide mental health support and stress management tools? There's announcements for their services in virtually every e-connection. So when I read that, and then that step up thing that they had, we had to cancel it once and then it came back.
Yes.
There were literally 2 professors there, me and a person from chemistry. That was it. Now the time wasn't great, it was 3:30 on a Friday afternoon, but it's sort of like, whatever. It's still, and if you work that 40-hour work week, you're still working at 3:30 on a Friday. But there really are, if you need services, if anybody in here wrote that, there's so much service here, and it's free. It's free. If there's some kind of problem, I don't like the word problem, with the issue, I hate that word too. But anyway, if we need some kind of support for X, Y, or Z, it's there for us. Just ask. And like I tell my students, I said, if you got a problem of whatever sort, whether or not if it's differential equations, or your dog passed away, or there's all those things in between, I say, come to me. I can't solve it, but darn, I know people who can. And then they come to my office in 5 minutes, bam, I've got the right office. But there is a lot. So if you're having those dilemmas, like I said, I don't know the right word. If you're having those dilemmas, this campus is phenomenal in trying to provide assistance of one variety or the other.
Well, one of the other resources that we have, and again, this is not mental health help, but it's a group of faculty members from this campus assembled into a cohort of master mentors. They're all experienced faculty members, and if you struggle with either a research agenda or teaching challenges in a classroom or your overwhelming service obligation or for balance, whatever, it's really sometimes pays to come to somebody and just say it all and not being judged, and sometimes those master mentors don't give you the right answer on the spot, but what happens is you already release that pressure valve, okay?
Yeah.
So you're not going to be exploding anymore. And then, as senior faculty members, and collectively, we've been on this campus, for 20 plus years, each person, right, sitting here. So we know if we cannot help you, we definitely will be able to, direct you to groups or individuals who will be able to help. Master mentors are absolutely confidential. It's like confessional in Catholic Church, okay? Door is closed, nothing is getting out. We seriously, we have a roster of master mentors on Cafe website. I encourage you guys to go and find somebody. If you don't know how to approach that individual, we can email me, I'll make that happen.
And the other thing too is there's a lot of people not on the master mentor list. If you know somebody and say, I've observed people's classes, I'm not on the list, and it's like,
And we maintain a special list for observing classes.
Well, no, but I'm just saying if someone just wants to come and say, hey, I know that you did this, could you watch me? Or how do you do this? How do I do that? Whatever it is. So it can just be a casual meeting. It doesn't even have to be a school arranged thing.
No.
It can just be kind of a fun thing. Where you just meet somebody. Which goes into what you said before about wanting, that it's the 21st century now and we should be on our cell phones or our Zooms and all these kinds of things. The one thing that does take away from the Zoom meetings and things like that for people who can't be here or don't want to be here, all right, what it does take away is the personal chit chat. And a lot of times, hey, how's your cat doing? Did your kid did they do a good job at the spelling bee? It sets up a relationship that can be more fun, because when you're on Zoom or somebody's pulled out their phone to do FaceTime, it's nice because we've had people on the phone. There's no time to ask him how his 85th book is doing, because he's a prolific writer. All right, so anyway, with all of it, but there's no time for that chit chat. And chit chat does make a difference in a department relationship.
Let me jump in with one thing. would you agree with me that when your students that you're teaching in a class are all stressed out before the big test, before performance in the classroom, the best thing as a teacher you can do is to normalize that experience for everyone. And say that you're not the only one who feels that way. And when you know that you're not the only one and you're not unique, all of a sudden you're normal, okay? So, and I think from the faculty member standpoint, we also need to be able to normalize problem with the balance for anyone who emerges as a new academic, okay? Whether it's graduate students, whether it's a young faculty member. So, and I think that that's what we're achieving here today. You hear that everyone here on the panel, we struggled. And we openly share that with everyone. And we are willing to speak on your behalf if you are unwilling or incapable, right, in some of the instances. So normalizing what we experience is a first step. I'm not talking about some serious steps that require more substantial, mental health things, right? But I'm talking about just sometimes you need to have a listening ear.
Yeah, but I think that fits exactly in with the first question on the list that was given to us by a full professor. Is balance really the goal? That part, I like the second one better. Or does one have to accept temporary periods of imbalance to achieve ambitious goals? I would say yes. Because sometimes when I go to a research institution for, to do my history research, I'm at the library or the archives from the time it opens to the time it closes, period. I don't take lunch, all right, because you don't know how much stuff is in their files. And if I get lucky, I get out on Saturday at noon, right? And I know when I do my research in Hawaii, everybody goes, oh, you're going to Hawaii? Really? I'm there from 8 in the morning until 5 when the archives closes. By the time 5:05 comes, you can't see. And you could be in Lithuania, it wouldn't make any difference. So it's like, then you go to McDonald's, go home and die. That's, the crash. So with it's like, I don't care if I'm on Waikiki or not. So there are that temporary periods of imbalance, absolutely. But then there's times in class I'll look at my schedule or in the week, I'll look at the schedule going, wow, I have nothing to do. Oh, cool, I can do my own research now. All right, like this weekend was all my own research. And that felt really empowering, but it was almost boring because I didn't have other things to do but my own stuff.
If you have the paper in front of you, I would like us to brainstorm or speak a little bit about the question number 8 on the list. So, and this is something that I think all of us, experienced faculty members or people who just start their career in academia, have to ponder very seriously. Right, academic life is no fun. It may seem like from the outsider perspective, but, and I'm sure you...
I have an idea. I try to jump in when you finish.
Okay, I'm just going to lay the stage and then I would like to bring everybody in. So I think we need to make it, it's a choice, okay? It's a choice that you make, and this is one of those careers that you cannot switch every 3 to 5 years, right? The goal is to stick around for extended, it's like a life choice. You're choosing a life partner, and your partner is academia in one sense, right? And that's why our spouses and significant others feel utterly jealous, because we often spend more time in our academic pursuits rather than our family exploits. So let's just, think about this, right? Retirees speak up about, well, this is the time to get out, whatever. You see the question in front of you, right? So, Bih-Ru, please chime in and then let's open the floor for
UM system has an advantage that many other universities do not have to address these issues. Grass is always greener on the other side of fence. So my suggestion is, have UM system, we have 4 campuses. We do a faculty rotations. You have to do go to say Bih-Ru, the similar departments, and be there for like a semester, do the teachings.
Oh God, no.
You know,
I don't mind.
yeah, and you will see sometimes our own environment is not that bad. I feel this very strongly because I do go to another institute during my sabbatical, and I feel the political environment, the departments, politics is killing me. But when you look at the other institute, they are not even better than us. You say, I can survive. At least I know how to defend myself. I can survive in this environment. So that's my suggestion. If you have a chance, go to another institute.
It sounds like a lot of people in here, this is my third, well, if you count my I did teach a little bit at MU, but this is my fourth institution. Or fourth, I hate the word institution, but my fourth educational place. It's very similar everywhere. It doesn't make any difference. I mean, even when it was, had the military students, we had different titles for professors, we had different titles for deans, different titles for chancellors, whatever. It was the same issues. It didn't make any difference. And there you were at the DMZ and you had North Koreans in your backyard sometimes at night. So, each one comes with its own issues. So I think that, but also I think with that question that came up with, it says recent retirees. One thing I think you need to remember with this one is when you're 28, because a lot of people get their PhD 27, 28, if you did that BA, MA, PhD thing straight through. So you're 28 to 32-ish, and then if you may go right into it. Okay, so you're very young at that point. When you're getting ready to retire, you're in your mid-60s to mid-70s, all right, depending on when somebody decides to call it quits. There's a whole lot of life that's gone on in there. For someone to say when they're 68, 70 years old going, oh my God, I can't wait to get out of here. They've got 40 years behind them. They've been to many rodeos, all right? They've been to many rodeos. Whereas somebody who's 32, 33, it's like, well, why are you complaining? Or why are we doing it this way? It's because it's your first rodeo, that sense. And I mean that in a very positive way. All right, so it's not new. So a lot of things, but when you go from place to place, there's a lot of the exact same issues. So, and I think a lot of it has to do with personalities in your department. All right, because I've noticed we've had some people retire and then they're replaced, and some we haven't had anybody quit other than retiring. I don't think we've lost.
Voluntary retirement.
Yeah, we've had a lot of retirement, but I mean in terms of that. So, but it really has varied. The tone of the department changes with the personalities that are there.
I bet I don't know what, next lunch, let's go with that, that the reason why you're here, because you want to be here, right? So people who don't want to be here, they're not here. So that's already a very solid foundation, for me at least, to understand that you want to be successful and you want to succeed. I've been in academia and teaching, independent teaching. This is my year number 31, okay? So I did 8 years in my home country, and then I came here in 1997 with Joel, who became the same year, and that's year number 23 for us, for him and myself. And I think I self-selected, but what started as a job, it's like, it's no longer what I do, it's becoming who I am. And if you somehow able to transition, and it takes time. It doesn't happen in 5 years or 10, but at some point it should happen. You moving from what you do and what you love to do to something you cannot live without. And I think that's what the unifying factor for all of us sitting here, that's why we're here. Nobody pays us extra money to have that panel, okay? And share our experience and volunteering our time and help. But we want to do this, and we want to get that out there so you, the young folks, can benefit. And I'm sincere, right? I would have never said that if I were.
young folk.
Academically young folk.
And I'm getting people free tickets to the Lady Miners game.
There
And you can stay for the Men Miners game after.
You advertised
That's
this
free.
so adroitly, Dr. Ahmad.
I tried, and I only got 12 or 13 to say yes.
Right there.
You see, I'll be doing some other fun stuff. I'll be digitizing records of German immigrants in Jefferson
There
City.
you go.
That's my stuff.
I'll take that again.
Well, let's hear from you guys.
Yeah.
What about that research requirements? That is a question that is really,
Especially for the assistant professors.
it's specific to assistant professors.
I think it boils down a lot to what I was telling him, do that calendar.
Yeah.
Do the calendar, because one of the things I think with going into the professor's world, all right, you understand there's research, service, and teaching, all right? You understand that. It's not like, you know, if you become a brain surgeon, you're not gonna, one operation might take an hour, another operation might take 18 hours. You know, so you don't know what it is, all these cases. So it's not like you're gonna have a normal accountant's life or a secretary's life, 8 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon. I think if you go into the job understanding that, and if you like what you're doing, if you like your field, if you like your subject, if you enjoy this, it's there. And then if a school requires too much research, for instance, there are, I knew a couple of engineers in the, like I said, this is my 20th year, with it, some have left. And the reason they left is they didn't want the responsibility, if you will, of the research. They went to, they're engineers, they went to engineering universities that stress teaching. And then they didn't have to do the research. So sometimes it means you have to leave. Now, the hardest part with that is some of you have spouses. There's the upside to being no dog, no cat, no kids, no husband. All right, so with it, but I mean, you might have to leave. Or take your spouse along. Like if you decided you hated here and you went interviewed at Princeton and you told them about your husband, they might find a spot for him too. You know, this kind of thing, or find another school nearby. So you have to be able to say, I really love this and I'm willing to do whatever it is, or this is not so much me. Maybe I need to do something else.
That's why I became an NTT. Because
Yeah.
I knew when I was a grad student that I did not want to do research. I did not enjoy it. It was fine, I didn't like the deadlines, I didn't like writing proposals, but I love to teach. So there are routes to get around. We have NTT research faculty who only do research. We have NTT teaching faculty who only teach. So you can separate it out. You don't have to take the whole shebang.
Yeah.
I have a question kind of in line with that. I think it's fair to say that academia is a pretty long-term pursuit, especially grad school, professorship, tenure track. Does anyone on the panel or anyone in the room have any suggestions for reevaluating in different periods to say, 5 years ago I wanted this vector, and now I'm considering a pivot. How is that come about with you guys?
School does it, actually, if you get a job here.
Yeah.
All right, now I don't know, the NTT, you're evaluated after a few years, right? Because like in the regular tenure track, after you get hired as a tenure track assistant, right? And then at 3 years, you're in your third year, you do the third year review. Then a couple of years later, you go up for, if it's sort of the normal pattern, a couple of years later, you go up for associate professor, so you're evaluated. In our department, and I think most departments, we evaluate each other every year. So it doesn't matter if you're a curator's professor or a brand new NTT. We evaluate each other. So our NTT looks at mine.
More what I mean is an idea of self-reflection to determine
You're supposed
as
to.
your interests change.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys
My
have-
whole life changed. I started went all the way through master's degree, I taught for a while, just because that was the easiest job. I had experience at it, so that's what I did. I went back to grad school when my youngest was 5. Got my PhD when I was 40.
Yay.
In a whole different discipline. So, because my undergrad is math and my PhD is electrical engineering. So, yeah, you can make those life changes. Right now I've got a 22-year-old daughter who is finishing a master's in neuroscience and goes, I don't know what I want to do. I'm like, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was your age either. Don't worry about it. You can change your mind.
She's 22 in her master's. She needs a PhD now.
I know.
Like,
We're talking about it.
I think I understand your question that how appropriate it is in your academic trajectory, if you will, right? Every so frequently stop and say, okay, is this something that I'm done with, or you know, I'm gonna change my direction slightly, or maybe pick up additional track, right? And do the parallel, or you know, intersecting, whatever. Absolutely. And I would say it's best if it is initiated by you and your intellectual exploits, rather than you are being forced by the deadlines and guidelines to do this not naturally. You know what I mean? So, because as we grow up, we look at what we've done through different set of eyes. For example, if you look at the CV as graduate students, you have so many minor things, but the list is so long. And when you grow up to be a full professor or named professor, your CV shrinks substantially, but every line on there is mile deep. So knowing that, you need to calibrate yourself and pace yourself, okay? Not to be afraid of that. So it's the transition of quantity into quality, right? So to speak, you know, it's a law. And it works in academia as well. So I would say every maybe 5 to 7 years, you need to reevaluate that. And two factors, what you want to do and what's hot on the market. This is very important. What is it in the field that is very important right now? What works well? What you can convince everybody that you're a valuable member.
Or take a year off and join the Peace Corps.
I was against it. There's mosquitoes there.
That depends on where you go.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of it may take going away for a year.
Yeah, and that's why we have a sabbatical system, right? Every 6 years, you can apply for 6 months or a year. Basically, go away, explore what you want to do. Yeah. And look at other institute, company. I work for industry as well.
So you use your sabbatical in that
I
way.
wonder if Malcolm has a question.
Yes.
No,
I
actually,
go
I just
and
wanted to hear a little
consult for a
something, because
company
here we actually touched
to
on
see
it.
if I like 8 to 5.
Yeah.
And then I go back to a university to see if I like this university better than the other university. So, and every 6 years, you get the opportunity. And you can change.
That would, I mean, she's right in theory.
Yeah.
All right, so some some schools are more inclined to that.
Yeah.
Other schools don't have the professor count where they would let you go for that amount of time.
Yeah.
So you'd have to, that would be a question to ask when you get your PhD and stuff and go off. That would be a question you should ask at the interview, you know, the on-campus interview. What is your sabbatical system? How do you support that? Because some schools are, you know, they're small. They don't have the money to do that, or they might not have the labor force outside. Rolla is small. It's hard to find adjuncts for some areas. For history, if we're lucky, we get somebody from someplace in St. Louis or maybe MU. All right, but that's still 100-mile one way, right? And if they're just teaching one class.
Or if you're the only one who can teach that specialized content.
Yeah, and it's a degree, of course, they need in the field.
So I know we've like talked a lot about just being in the academic world, but I think Blaine was kind of maybe like hinting, maybe, I don't know. You know, if you take a break, and there's a lot of professors that have gone out and worked in the industry for like, 5, 10, 15 years, and they come back, and that's always an option.
Yeah.
Because you can go out and make your mark there and decide, oh, you know what? This job out here is killing me, working 60, 70, 80 hours a week doing this other stuff. Maybe I just want to go back to work in academia where it's a little bit more relaxed. I can kind of set my own pace and work on the projects that I really enjoy, rather than being forced to work on something that maybe you don't really care that much about, but you still like doing the work in that field. You just want to work on stuff that you enjoy. So go out in this industry, travel the world, have a lot of fun, make a lot of money, and then come back and work.
And it's still 60 or 70 hours a week, but you're enjoying it.
That's right, exactly.
I mean, that's the idea. Like,
Same amount of time, just doing it differently.
We're going to all die at one point.
Right.
And if we want to live a fulfilled life, we should do things we love.
That's right.
You have to do what makes you happy.
Mhm.
You need to eat, you need to pay the rent. And like I said, for kids going into teaching, if you don't like it, don't go into it. because you're gonna get paid 25, 30,000 if you're lucky. And if you like it, you're making more money than somebody who's making 125 if they hate the job. In fact, I had that conversation in class today.
Well, I see we're approaching the 4:30 mark. Your time is valuable. I just want to conclude this with one remark. I think if I ask you, every single aspect that we discussed tangentially was connected to one important thing: time and planning of time, right? Whether it's making schedules, being intentional, report, evaluate, and all of this. A lot of outsiders, when we speak about academic life, they have this very corrupted picture of what our time is all about. This image of a, flip-flop professor in ripped jeans, lounging in Panera and drinking coffee from, 6 a.m. to the closing. This is not what we experience, right?
Yeah.
So, and first of all, God forbid, don't even discuss those misconceptions. You will never be able to convince them otherwise. But what's really important, academic life requires planning. You have to literally plan it out. It can be a long-term plan broken down into small chunks, or you can go from micro to the macro. It doesn't matter which way, but you have to have timeline and goals, and you need to periodically check and see how well you. And there's no wrong in redefining the goals or adjusting the timeline. It's not set in stone, but this is important for your teaching, research, and also service. So, I know that maybe a couple more questions, if nothing. You see how great this conversation is? Yeah. So if there's nothing